Hello and welcome. Another edition of Coach's Corner, and where each and every Thursday, Coach Serrano and myself spend some time speaking with college coaches from across the country, all levels, all divisions. And in today's changing landscape with regard to college baseball, now more than ever, our hope is to allow parents as well as student athletes to gain some insight while talking with the college coaches and hearing their perspective of the ever changing recruiting landscape for college baseball. And when I was a kid, when you said the words Big East, you thought about basketball. You thought Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullins, and it was really an unbelievable basketball as well as baseball conference. And joining us today is the associate head coach of the Seton Hall Pirates of the Big East, Giuseppe Papaccio. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Giuseppe, because I want people to know about the Big East as far as from a baseball perspective.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think you introduced it really well. Some people probably in the area, maybe on like the East Coast, understand what the Big East is and was, but I think getting the word out would be beneficial to the players, the parents, anybody really. I think that the conferences in the last year, RPI wise, it was number seven, I think, it finished the season. So top level baseball and a bunch of really good academic schools too.
Well, what I want to let parents know when you say Big East, we're talking Villanova, we're talking Georgetown, we're talking UConn, and, Seton Hall. Coach, I would love for you to expand on this, but, for many, many decades, baseball players, major league players from Seton Hall, we had John Valentin, me as a Red Sox fan, Mo Vaughn, Matt Morris. I mean, we're
Craig
talking
Biggio
pitchers and
too.
Craig Biggio, Hall of Famer Craig Biggio.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to kind of discuss that a little bit because I don't think parents and athletes in today's world really truly understand not only the baseball history of Seton Hall, but of the conference itself.
Yeah, the some of the part like the beginning of the conversations that we have about the Seton Hall baseball history when it comes to recruits, or even like I played here too, so I've heard both sides of it. When I was getting recruited, when I played here, and now being the recruiting coordinator and associate head coach, like that's part of what I need to know and express to families is like how rich the tradition is, and as far as the pipeline between professional baseball success and Seton Hall athletics over the past could be 50 years. Like it's just an astronomical number of major leaguers. We've had the highest ever first rounder in the Big East was Jason Grilli. We have a Hall of Famer, like you said, Craig Biggio. We have a ton of first round draft picks. We have Matt Morris, who just got his number retired and enshrined into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Mo Vaughn, like you said, John Valentin, a perennial big leaguer. And part of it too is like some guys that people may not have actually heard of, like Martise Robinson was maybe undoubtedly like supposed to be one of the best ones. He was the Golden Spikes Award winner, which college baseball players know is the best college baseball player in the country. So I mean, his career got cut a little bit short in the minor leagues, but just the history of Seton Hall players going to pro ball is really really deep, and that's something we express to our guys because it and in part of like now the recruiting landscape changed because you're recruiting college players sometimes like the tradition and the culture of the program sometimes gets lost in some places, but ours is really important to us. Ours is really deep. Our head coach Rob Shepard has been here for 23 seasons now as a head coach. His dad was here for about 30 years. He was a Hall of Fame head coach. He's the one that coached all of those guys. So tradition runs deep here, and that's something we talk a lot about to our guys. We have myself, Coach Shepard, and Coach Ramiz all went here, and we all played 4 years here, and then me and Coach Ramiz played some pro ball too. So the tradition runs deep.
Well, I'd like to let everybody know that being humble, you're a college All American as well as a draft pick and playing a few years professionally. I mean, so you definitely know what it takes to be a Seton Hall Pirate as far as with regard to baseball and academics. And on that note, I try to explain to parents the power and the benefits that come along with being a strong academic. And within your conference, academics play a significant role at schools like Villanova, Georgetown, Seton Hall, St. John's, et cetera. And I would love for you to kind of discuss the benefit of being a student athlete that presents a strong transcript and how that can help them with regard to scholarship.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of our recruiting tools. Like when we go and watch high school travel games or even just talk to kids on the phone or through email, one of the first things we have to ask them is what are your grades like, and what's the academic situation that you're in, because partially our school is relatively expensive, and I think there are very few schools that aren't expensive anymore. Like it's
So true.
school just across the board, college is expensive. So we try to narrow down the list of athletes that we feel like we can put together a really strong package of academic money and athletic money. So there are kids that we have a very small few. I think off the air we were talking about there's about 80 something% on our team who are student athletes that have a package of academic money with their like athletic money or just their own academic money in general. So we have to use that all the time. So as for the high school athlete or the parent too, it opens a ton of doors. It just makes your list of opportunities a little bit bigger. And for us, from a recruiting standpoint, we have to, like you said, recruit against Villanova and Georgetown and UConn, and St. John's, the really, really strong academic schools in the area. And sometimes we've run into situations a lot of times where kids are valuing academics at like a really high level, whether it be, hey, I might go to a lower level baseball school or conference and really, really hammer the academic side of it. So that's been our niche for years. I know when I was getting recruited here, it was a huge part of the conversation where what do your transcripts look like? And that was 15 years ago. And a piece of it now is like school is getting so expensive, and we have every school that you're going to run into is probably in a different situation with the new scholarship rules. But right now it's like we need to try to make it affordable for everybody. So a piece of that is definitely academic money. So the strong transcripts are huge for us.
So let's talk a little bit about, the changes that are coming. I mean, it seems to be a really big topic of discussion, not only for parents and student athletes, but as well as college coaching staffs. How much of an impact do you feel that this is going to make at Seton Hall or within the Big East? Do you think it's going to be something where you may say there may be some additional scholarships that are offered, or do you think that this is going to be good as far as the availability of athletes now that may be accessible for Seton Hall that may be now coming from other programs?
We're we're kind of in the middle of both situations right now. So it's honestly an ongoing conversation with administration and people in the athletic department of like how can we make it to be a little bit more affordable for everybody, whether it's Seton Hall that as an institution, as a school that gives us more academic money, or do we go out and we have people that are alums or people in the area that want to donate and help us like make the scholarship piece of it a little bit more appealing. So that's like an ongoing conversation. And I think for a lot of schools across the country, there might be, for us, for instance, like there might be one day where someone comes up and says, we'll give you two full scholarships every single year, kind of like a donation. So that could happen. Some of those conversations have been in the works for a little while now since the rules changed, but that could happen like in one day, in one instant for each school. It can happen anywhere. I think you'll run into situations where some schools might be a mid-major, but they have they might get five more scholarships than a school
Right.
that is a higher level baseball program, just based on donors and things like that. So I think it's an ever evolving thing, and just as well as anybody, like it's changing by the week, the month, the day. It's everything is going to be different. But for us, from a specific standpoint, I think we're in a good spot where there's going to be a little bit more of like a trickle down effect from, you could say, the power four or the power five, and some of those kids aren't going to get the opportunities that they have, and we're right in that level that is really, really high baseball conference and really high academics. So I think that's appealing to some kids that were like, all right, maybe I can't play at so and so school. I might have been the 39th guy on that roster, but if I get an opportunity, I might be able to go down just a tick to, let's say, a Big East school. But for us too, we're also in the same predicament that like we have guys that we feel like we had committed to a 40-man roster, and then you have to start backpedaling and thinking, okay, how do we make this fit? So we have again, I'm sure you know that, but the Excel spreadsheets and all the
Oh
movement and
yeah.
the colors highlighted, and this kid's coming in this class, and this is the money that we have available. So it's always moving, and we're trying to figure out as best as we can. But it's something that's interesting. Like we obviously we hope we as someone who's been recruiting for a while now, like I wish I could make it free for everybody. Like it's easier on the parents, and it's easier to get a yes for us too. So I wish we can give everybody money, but it is really competitive now. Like the scholarship piece of it and the rosters going down makes it really really competitive.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room that everybody kind of is tiptoeing around, and that's the role of the high school athlete with regard to recruiting. A lot of parents see the sky is falling. There's a Chicken Little effect going on that the 25s and the 26 high school graduates are going to get, pushed back or pushed behind a wall. But really, the high school athlete is and always will be in some capacity the lifeblood of a real good quality college program they're going to develop within your program. Talk a little bit about what it truly takes in today's world for a high school athlete to be fully prepared, with regard to competing for not only a roster spot, but playing opportunities at Seton Hall.
Yeah, I think part of it from a recruiting standpoint, like when you're looking at, okay, let's say in the 26 class, we're looking at 5 different shortstops. What is going to be the separator for them? And I think as the actual student athlete, you have to figure out what can I do to separate myself, because the pool of players is so much bigger because they're competing against college kids too in the transfer portal, and the roster spots are shrinking. So the competitiveness is going way, way up. So your separation has to be somehow, okay, what can I do to leapfrog some of these athletes with, for example, if I said the 5 shortstops in the 26 class, how do I get to the top of that list and how do I get the offer? And then when it comes down to playing, it's the same thing for our guys too. The current players on our roster, you have to think, okay, how do I separate myself? If we have 20 hitters, how do I become one of those 9? What's the separator? So I think for me, just looking at like, you have to be a little bit pickier now looking at high school athletes, but I guess for their outlook on it, you can't say that, okay, the high school athlete is washed away. That will never happen. I think the piece of it is kind of like we talked a little bit off air of like the character and culture piece. We have some, even on our team right now, we have some younger players, some sophomores that haven't really played because we had an older team last year. But the excitement around the team right now this year is like the culture and the character of the younger guys. Like they're exciting to be around. They want to get after it every day. The piece of it to me is like the want to be better, even though I haven't played very much. That's the exciting piece of the high school athlete. So that's what programs, I think the good ones are built on. I think there are programs across the country that you'll see have 6 transfer portals starting and they're starting 9. But I think from like a foundational standpoint, you want to get the high school kid that calls you on the phone and says, I want to come to Seton Hall and I want to win a Big East championship. So that to me still carries a lot of weight, and that's important to us. So if you're a high school athlete, like the only thing that you're probably a little bit more honed in on now is like, what is that separating factor? You feel like when the pool is the pool of players is bigger, but the roster spots are shrinking, it forces you to get better faster. And I think that's the same thing for the college athlete after COVID trying to get drafted. The rounds got cut down completely in half. So now it's just, and I guess that's just evolution. It's harder to be a pro player, and now it's harder to be a Division I player. Like that to me, some would say it's like unfair, but that's kind of the way evolution works. It's like you have to keep moving and getting better, or you kind of get left behind. So it's not. I don't want to be cutthroat about it, but that's the truth. Is you have to find something or multiple things that are really separating you from such a big pool of players.
Well, I definitely want to stay kind of in that general realm with regard to the topic. You being a former professional athlete, I understand, the margin and the separation of talent is razor thin. And when you get to that Division I level, it's not personal. The best have to be between the lines. And when I say the best, I would love for you to talk, from a baseball IQ perspective. We talk a lot about physicality, we talk about skill set development. What we don't hear enough from college coaches is the value of the baseball intellect, the baseball IQ, whether it's base running, situational hitting, pitch sequencing, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how that is also seen or viewed as a separator when you're evaluating talent at the high school level?
That's a great piece of it. That's a great point, we stress all the time that like the guys that get in the lineup, the starting nine, are usually the most trustworthy players, and trustworthy can be talent, adaptability, adjustability, multi positions. They've had some experience already, but also just like knowing, if you're a hitter, knowing what the pitcher is trying to do. What does the situation dictate? Okay, there's a runner on third and the infield is in. They're going to try and get me to pound the ball into the ground. Now, an athlete that has that game plan, okay, what I'm going to try and see the ball up. To me, that like you can put together a guy that's going to hit in that situation that just knows that, and he has a better approach, and he might be 5'5" and 150 pounds, but he might figure it out. And you put a 6'2" guy that's 200 pounds and he looks the part, but he's just swinging at breaking balls in the dirt, which is feeding right into their plan. So to me, the baseball IQ piece is huge, and just kind of knowing your surroundings, knowing the situation is enormous. But also, when I say trustworthy, it's like the piece of it too that you can handle some failure. Like that is such an important piece of it that I think is like we were talking before, as separators, like just the mental game and what you can do to separate yourself when it comes down to the old piece that's like, hey, you're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. Like the guys that can stick with it, and want their fourth at bat when they're 0 for 3, those guys end up staying in the lineup, and that's something we talk about all the time. So I leapfrog a little bit on a couple different pieces, but that to me, that's like that the intangibles, the baseball IQ, that's really valuable now because the game has changed in the recruiting landscape a little bit. And it's, I'm not going to point fingers at anybody. We're all guilty of it. It's how hard can you hit the ball? How hard can you throw the ball? How fast can you run? And then we see it every fall. There's a huge window of like, we got to teach all these freshmen how to really play the game, because some of that is going by the wayside at the lower levels or at the high school levels, and that's no, like, you can't point to anybody for that. It's just how it goes sometimes. If you want to get if you're a travel coach or a high school coach and you want to get your players recruited, you kind of have to develop them as an athlete. They have to hit the ball hard. They have to be able to cover the strike zone. They have to throw the ball relatively hard. Like that's the truth of it. So sometimes that bucket just gets a little bit overflowed, and then the baseball IQ is left kind of high and dry. So I know it's a couple different pieces that we just talked about, but that's really the truth of it. Like the guys that end up in the lineup are really trustworthy. They have high IQ. They kind of know their surroundings, and they have some baseball awareness.
I want to let parents know that, whether it's Seton Hall or any other school within the Big East, you can find out a lot of their contact information in the Baseball Blue Book app. I encourage parents and student athletes. The Blue Book app has just gone through a tremendous renovation, and it's all polished and spit shined, and it's all prepared for the off season. So go into your Google or Apple app store and download the Blue Book, and you'll have access to not only Seton Hall but all college programs within the Big East. Giuseppe, one of the topics that I was really excited about discussing with you that I think gets lost, the vast majority of baseball discussions, whether it be podcasts, YouTube, we talk athletic skill set, we talk professional baseball, Division I. We don't spend enough time on the value of the academic, of the degree. And you, having been a coach at New Jersey Tech and now at Seton Hall, and being a graduate of Seton Hall, you can speak to this. Long after baseball ends, the benefit of playing at a program such as Seton Hall is the doors that open being an alum of Seton Hall, carrying a degree from Seton Hall. And I would love for you to kind of utilize in this time to kind of tell parents, hey, it's bigger than baseball. Baseball is going to end, but that degree from Seton Hall is going to carry you for several decades as a future spouse and parent.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of the reason that some of the parents get their children into playing sports is what it creates as a person. Like they mold your kid into someone who's resilient. They work hard for what they want. They have to, if you don't get good grades, you can't play at this level. So you have to be a good student across the board. But the value of the actual degree, whether it be Seton Hall or someone else in the Big East or another school, it goes beyond what you can do on the field and how you got that scholarship or how you got your degree. Like the piece of it that is really, really important is that whether it be a company, whether it be certain people that want to hire athletes, the degree will take you further than what you think it will. Like at the high school level, every kid that I talk to, they they're kind of like, okay, that they want to go to this academic school for certain reasons, but to me it's almost like 90% of the kids are like, I really, really want to play baseball, which I don't blame anybody at all for wanting to play. I was in the same exact boat, but it's hard for them to ever see the other side of it, where now, okay, I'm on the other side of it. I've been out of school for 11 years now. There is so much more life and so many more things that are going to be more important to you than baseball. And like what your degree can give you is going to open up unbelievable doors. Like to me, that whether it be Seton Hall or somebody else, like you have to be interested in what you're studying, because you're going to have to pursue either something that you studied in college or what your degree got you. So to me, I always tell student athletes, I think a huge piece of it that might go unlooked is like really, really loving your major. Like you want to get the degree, you want to get the Seton Hall degree, the whatever NJIT degree, but also you want it to carry weight into something that you love to do for the next 25 or 30 years. Like to me, that's a huge piece of it, and that I can't stress that enough to parents out there that know I love my job. If you're a parent out there that loves your job, you know that there is nothing better than going to work and enjoying it. I've worked, and I have a lot of friends that work for the weekend and they work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and they can't wait to get off work. I don't have a job like that, and I know there are parents out there that don't either. And the value of that is really strong. So when it comes down to like what the academic piece can open up for you, open up doors. The piece of it that's important for you to figure out is, what do you actually like to do? What do you want your degree to be in? Because you want to carry weight with wherever you graduate from. But athletes are really appealing to get hired from almost any company because they have all those characteristics that we talked about. But you want to be, okay, I want to send my resume to this company because I really, really want to do this job and I'm proud of my degree. I think sometimes we run into, I would be lying if I didn't tell you we don't run into kids that are like, I don't really know. I want to do business maybe. And they just, in the back of their head, they're like, I'll get the degree, but I want to play baseball. You know what I mean? So the piece of it is, it's going to happen at some point or another, whether you play 20 years in the big leagues or not. You're going to have to flex your muscles in another area, and you want to be well equipped for that.
I'm going to switch gears on you here, and I think I'm someone in the minority, but I actually think that the changes that will be occurring beginning in April of 25 are actually going to benefit uh, Division One college baseball as a whole. I don't think it's going to bring parity necessarily, but I do not ever see David and Goliath going away, and I think it's going to enhance programs such as Seton Hall. We witnessed last year UConn going into a super regional against Florida State. And I really want you to discuss what that feels like. I know you've been a part of regionals in Fayetteville, and I really want you to get the point across to parents and student athletes. The magic will be able to happen now for Seton Hall because all it takes is getting into that regional. You got to be in it to win it. But I would love for you to share what that feels like during that time of the year after you've played your 54, 56 game schedule, and then you're getting into tournament time and the regional environment. Share as a former athlete that's lived it, but now as a coach, how exciting that is and why parents and student athletes need to really want to be a part of a program like Seton Hall.
Yeah, I'm in a really fortunate, I guess, situation where I played in a regional at Seton Hall. We won the Big East championship in 2011, and then I coached in a regional in 2021 at NJIT at the Fayetteville Regional in Arkansas. So the even if it's conference tournament or NCAA regional, just the level of play is just so much higher, and I think the excitement is so much higher too. But that it kind of brings me back to my point of like, you only get that excitement if you have the right group of guys in the building, and I think that piece of it is like, you have to have the right character guys, you have to have a culture that's moving in the right direction. To me, that's the only way that you get there. It's hard to get there with a team of like 3 or 4 guys who are bought in and some good athletes. Like the strength of it, and I know you've seen it before, is if you have good culture, good camaraderie, a bunch of hard workers and guys who love each other, truly love each other day in and day out and enjoy being with each other, that goes deeper than any talented team. So I think that piece of it for an athlete or even like a parent for that instance is like we need to set the foundation so we can get to that level, because that might take you further when it comes down to getting into college, and then college getting into a regional, or so on and so forth. I know as a coach now, we a lot of it is like building camaraderie with the team. You want to, it's not all about what you know, it's about like how you can connect with the players sometimes and the guys that you can get in the room. So the regional and all those things in the NCAA tournament are really, really, really exciting. And it just, to me, it's a huge reward for like a 56 game season, then your conference tournament, and that excitement is, you have to be really fortunate to get into that piece of it. But I can't express it enough, playing at that level. And now in 2024 and 25, all those games are on TV. Back then, it was like, man, if you get into a regional, you're going to be on TV. Like, it's a huge piece of it too. That's exciting, and it's something that's like for the athlete, it's like the carrot dangling in front of your head. You want it. You want to get a conference championship ring, and you want to be playing in a regional. So that stuff, that's the motivating stuff. Those guys, that the high schooler that calls you and tells you who wants to win a championship and go to regional, those guys are exciting to be around.
The last question, Giuseppe, I would love for you to share the value of camps at Seton Hall. Do you like to see your prospects attend your camp, whether it be in the fall or the off season in the winter or so forth? And, do you recruit out of your camps?
Huge. It's a huge recruiting tool for us. And that's, to me, that's how you're finding the guy that really wants to come to Seton Hall, if they're willing to come to the camp. To me, that's been a piece of it since I was a player. We've had like every year, it's like 7 out of 10 guys in the recruiting class have been to a camp. And that's the same last year. The 25 class, the 24 class, the 23 class, they've all been on campus in one way or another. I think there were 2 guys in the last 2 classes that have really like never been here and never been to a camp and didn't know much, and it was kind of like a long shot. Everyone else knows a lot about the program, and they got their feet wet in a camp. So to me, the camp setting, you just get to work with guys. We just had a camp this weekend, and I get to do individual defense and hitting groups with guys for like 3 hours. So I get, whether it be good or bad, I get a better gauge recruiting wise, and I can make a more educated decision based on, okay, what I've seen and what I can work with this kid. So if you're a kid that wants to go to whatever school, like you want to make sure that you can get it in the mix with their coaches, and go to their camp and see what their campus is all about. You want to leave those camps and be able to say, hey, if your uncle asked you, how was Seton Hall? What do you think about the offense? What do you think about the infield play? If you're an infielder, you should be able to tell them after a camp what the coaches think about this, and what they think about offense and all that, and what they think about recruiting. So to me, that's just, if you want to collect information and get to know the coaching staff and the school, you got to go to the camps.
So how about this for shortstops? Nick Ahmed at UConn, Giuseppe Baccio. In 2011, you had some good shortstops in the Big East. So I think that says everything we need to know about the quality of baseball in the Big East. So, Coach, I want to say thank you first and foremost for taking the time to join me today. I want to let parents know you're looking for camp information. You want to know when the camps are occurring. You want to contact the coaching staff at Seton Hall. Going to have all of that not only in the description for the podcast, but as well as the YouTube videos. Also in the Baseball Blue Book app, you'll be able to contact and reach out to Coach. I'll have all that information also available in the description below. Go ahead and reach out to Coach. Get yourself to the camp. Look to be a part of the Seton Hall Pirate program. Coach, I really want to say thank you. Happy holiday season ahead. And I hope you have a great 25-26 season and beyond.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach.